And then we're going to go live.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we can totally talk about it.
Okay.
Share to a group. Intuitive. Oh God, because it always makes me print out the whole thing because it can't figure out that I'm always going live to the same place. All right, and we are live. Yay! Let me put us on gallery mode. We are on gallery mode. We are live. I'm going to find us here. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with Lisa.
The people are with us. The people are with us.
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm looking on the phone. The phone will tell me. Eventually.
I have done like so few amount of Facebook lives that you have to know all the things about this. I don't know how to do anything. I'd love to know if my people are here because I invited my Joy Scholars, but you'll have to tell me if you see that.
All right, I will tell you if I do. Okay, we are live. So far we have one eyeball, but that doesn't mean that more are not coming. It is often like that.
They're coming.
Yeah, and Facebook has been weird. Like the lives don't populate like they used to for me as much. So, and I think it's a Facebook. I mean,
every time I think I have a handle on Facebook, something goes completely awry and different, and they have no idea how challenging that is for people like me.
Well, it's like everyone, and anyone who does follow my lives knows that there's always a little point in the beginning where I'm trying to figure out how to get live and what's changed, because every time I go live, which is not that few and far between, this was actually the one time that it was seamless. Usually they change something and you're like, you're finding a new way to do it. So
okay, I don't know why yourself with your cup, because you just went like this with your mug, so everybody knows now that it's a prop and you've got nothing.
Dang it.
Like flailing the thing around.
I'm thirsty too, but I didn't have time to fill it. So I bought this mug today.
I'll hold for them if you want to go.
In honor of my amazing meeting today with Lisa, because one of the many things that Lisa and I share is a love of sunflowers, and sunflowers specifically in our logos, right? Because it's in your logo too. And see, it's in my background. And so I was opening a bank account for my new business, which some of you will hear about soon. And it takes a really long time to do anything at Citibank. So the lady said, leave and come back. And I had nowhere to go. So I went to Home Goods and I found this beauty and I was like, I have to bring this. So yeah, it is a prop though. There's nothing in it.
Now everybody knows.
Drops in it that are now in my head, but there's not a lot in it.
And you also explain it as sunflowers always know how to turn toward what nurtures them, right? That's the magical thing, is they turn toward the sun. No matter which way the sun is, they know how to get that self-nurturing and self-sustenance. Even if you didn't have that up here, you had it in here, you knew.
Yeah, I will tell you the truth. I am sometimes Karen Garvey, who's been on the show before, who's been on Lisa's show, who's going to be on our show again very soon to talk about her experiences in the energy realm, which is going to be the coolest episode that I can't wait to record. We haven't recorded it yet, but it's in the books and I've been wanting to talk to her about this forever. But anyway, and I think some of you eyeballs or replay eyeballs also know Karen. Karen Garvey gave me this when I was first starting, and she said in terms of the seeds, and I'm not going to do it justice. I really just blindly listened and I've been a sunflower girl ever since. But she said they have like thousands of seeds, like so many seeds, and the seed to flower ratio. And so she's like, it's all about planting those seeds.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that one.
Yeah. So now we have both. We have the following the joy, which I think I'm just moving into myself, my friend. You've been at the joy business way longer than I have. And also the seeds that we are planting.
I love both of those. They're so good combined.
Yeah. And I just love the resonance that we both are sunflower girls.
Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
So welcome, Lisa McCourt. Lisa is this week's guest on the podcast. We have some eyeballs now. And know too, if you guys have questions, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Lisa if you don't know her, so you know what questions to ask, but you can put them down in the comments because it usually takes a while for us to see them, and I will be looking. I'm pointing over there because I look on my phone, because if I look on Facebook at this conversation, we're time lagged and it makes me insane. So I have a whole little sitch. But anyway, Lisa is expert, author of vibration elevating books that have sold over 8.5 million copies. I just like to say that because it's so freaking amazing. And she's also my new favorite person. Well, one of my new favorite people. And
Oh, just say BFF.
well, BFF. I was gonna say that, but I say that like all the time. But here's the disappointing
love
thing.
when you say
Oh, well, I mean it, my friend. I really do. I'm so grateful for you. You have no idea.
you have no idea.
But my mom, when I was a kid, burst the best friend bubble by telling me like, you can only have one best friend because like technically best is like, it's stuck with me. I would be like, this is my first best friend and my second best friend and my other best friend. She's like, you can only have one best friend. That's what best means. And so,
You're in trouble if that's the case.
I know. So I'm letting that one go now, right? We don't have to be that hung up on the words. Yeah. Totally BFF here. Oh my God, something else I was thinking too, but it left my brain. So I will wait for it to come back. But oh, I know what it was. Lisa also has an amazing podcast on which I was a guest, and I was listening to your episode right before coming on this because I love to listen to her podcast when I do my I love it when I go for walks. Sometimes I go for silent walks, but there's certain parts of the walk where it's nice to have inspiration, like usually the uphill parts. So I was listening to your beautiful podcast on my walk, and I loved this week's episode. It was just so cool.
Yay, thank you so much. This was a special one for me.
Yay. All right. So Lisa, tell us about joy. I wrote down questions, but before we get there, just in case people haven't listened to the episode yet, or they don't know you, can you fill them in on your story and how you got to be doing what you do today, which is being a joy expert person? What do you call it?
Circus people. I call it
a joy performer,
unicorn circus people, because anybody who calls themselves a joy trader just has to have that kind of balls to like be up there with circus people. Yeah, so it's been a long journey, as most people who do what we do, and for the last 20 years or so, I've just really given into what I had honed into as my natural calling, the place that I can just be the most me, just express what I really juicily enjoy expressing. And really, it's about being the magnet that attracts the like others, because there aren't so many of us really on the population of the globe in the grand scheme, right? So you have to kind of put out that beacon. You have to put that flag in the ground to attract your tribe. And that's what my whole career has been about for the past 20 years. Before that, I was in publishing. I thought writing was my only superpower. I am a really good writer. I'm writing a book right now that'll come out next year. I've written a lot of ghost writing for people in personal growth and personal development. But really what I love is connecting with tribe on this level of, let's talk about vibration. Let's talk about joy. Let's talk about our real purpose here. And everything in Joy School is about connecting with that inner essence, that core inner being that is joy and love and compassion and freedom and all the good things that we all have as our essence, as our core. And I help people connect to it to just have an amazing life of higher vibration, manifesting higher vibration being in the world. And I know that you connect to it in that intuitive lens, but we're all connecting to the same thing. We're just connecting to that inner source that once you kind of peek behind the curtain, once you pull back that veil and you see what is legitimately there that 99 whatever percent of the population hasn't really recognized as being there yet, there's like nothing else you can do with your life than devote it to spreading word of this in whatever small way you can, right?
What do you say to people? This just pops into my brain. What do you say for those people that haven't found the joy yet? Like I get this a lot from clients where they say, I don't know what brings me joy. I don't know what makes me happy. Like that sounds like a really good idea, but like I wouldn't know where to start.
Okay. Well, it starts with what we call in joy school being the observer. That's an Eckhart Tolle terminology. We use a lot of Eckhart Tolle language just because that's been kind of my strongest, biggest teacher in all of this has been Eckhart Tolle. So first we have to see what's there before we can do anything with it. And it's a practice like anything else. Anything that we do for the first time is going to feel awkward and messy, and it's not going to feel like it's worth pursuing because we're so bad at it. But we build the skill by deliberately turning ourselves toward observing our thought patterns, observing our reactivity to certain situations in our lives. And through sort of a methodical step-by-step process of becoming the observer, we're able to detach a little bit from that messiness that most of us have going on that Buddhists call the monkey mind. And once we get a little bit of detachment, we can witness it, observe it with some compassion, without any judgment, just with some love. And we can start to play around with it and rewire. I call it the joy set point. We all have a set point for joy, which is just what we're comfortable with based on what we learned really, really, really early in our lives, before we had logic, before we had the ability to set up our lives in a meaningful, mature way. We all developed definitions about how it be here in this crazy ass world. And becoming the observer of all that allows you to get in there and start tweaking it to your advantage.
Beautiful. Do you think people sometimes are afraid of their joy? Like they're afraid of raising that set point? I mean, because I think that can get uncomfortable.
For sure. Because those of us who are rooted more in a fear-based reality than a love-based reality, which is the majority of people on the planet right now, that's just verifiable. It feels like when we're coming from fear, keeping our eye on the ball, whatever that threat is, whatever's threatening our safety, our joy, our equilibrium, whatever's threatening us from creating the life that we've decided we want to create, we have to keep our eye on that, because that's what keeps us safe. And keeping our eye on it is just another way of feeding it. And when we're feeding it our energy, we're growing it in our experience.
That's beautiful, right? Because when you are feeding the fear, watching the fear, because if the fear will tell you, like, if you don't listen to me, something bad's going to happen. It's like the biggest lie that our fear tells us. And in fact, it's the other way around. I mean, if you feed the fear, you're more likely to experience fearful things. And at the very least, and don't be afraid if the fear is talking to you, because it does that. And again, it's that having that presence, right? And to recognize, I'm going to let you talk, but I'm not going to feed you any peanuts right now. Right.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
No. Peanuts.
Yeah. But I think it's scary because so many of us, and I think sometimes I was getting it too. I think sometimes in those primary relationships too, we've been taught, don't trust the fun, trust the fear. And some of us have even been punished for having fun or from straying out of the line. I talk about this a lot, or at least I get this a lot for people. Everyone's had that conditioning of stop playing and stop having fun and get back to work. Right. But a lot of us did have that early conditioning where we were in our joy and someone said, that's not okay. Stop doing that. Do what I want you to do, or toe the line, or you could get hurt, or, and I think that also kind of shuts it down. It makes us feel that it's not safe to be ourselves and to vibe with our own, authenticity and our own authentic joy.
For sure. And I think that it's well-meaning influences that do that. It's just they're living from their own limitations. This is how they've decided that they stay safe in the world, so they want to pass that on to us, and it's not serving us. But that's the messaging that most of us get at this point in the toddlerhood of humanity.
Agreed. My guides at one point showed me, could be wrong, but they showed me at multiple points in terms of soul age, of the aggregate age on the planet. What they actually showed me is the aggregate age is early adolescence.
All right.
That's what they showed me, which kind of makes sense because early adolescents are very stormy.
That does make sense.
So I don't know if that's true or not, but that is what I've been shown on multiple occasions. And again, they're just metaphors. So I don't really know what, that's not a verifiable thing, but anyway, it just came to me to say.
They're
Let's
both equally true and valid. I was just at that conference with Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and all these like science thinkers, and I want to say exactly which one, but I can't remember which now, made this comparison. But they said the reason that life seems so messy and horrible in the planet right now is that we are toddlers, which probably correlates to being adolescents. It's
all
probably all
good. You know,
the same,
toddlers and
but
adolescents are actually very similar.
they are very similar.
So
And
somebody's
that like,
with both.
you know how a toddler will start to walk and everyone will be like, oh, her steps are walking, they're walking, and then splat, they go like down on their ass. That's like what we're doing. We're getting that higher consciousness. It's like it's starting to seep into the 100th monkey point where we're going to elevate, but we're at that toddler stage where we're going to have an elevation and we're going to splat on our ass. And that's just like where we are right now. And we have to just roll with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes perfect sense. So we can go with the toddlers.
Or adolescents.
It's so good. All right. I had another question. Let's talk about the rewiring process, because that's where yours truly has been working, you know, on that rewiring. For me, listening to the intuition has been a thing for a long time. And intuition doesn't usually feed you fear. So when I listen to the guidance, it usually bypasses that. But, you know, when I didn't listen to the guidance, it was something else altogether. And now I've really been working on the rewiring process. And it's been interesting. I want to say it's been hard, but I don't want to say it needs to be hard, but it's really a different way of doing things, you know, at least how I understand it. So I'd like to hear it from you. And for me, my experience has really been sort of calling BS on a lot of old hardwiring and making a real conscious choice to choose something else. But it really went against a lot of the ways I understood life was supposed to work. So anyway.
So in Joy School, we call it bucket beliefs. That's kind of my aggregate label for what I've learned from various masters that I've studied with, various spiritual teachers. I call it bucket beliefs because when we're really, really young and we come here so thirsty to know, how is it here? What is it like? What's my place in it all? What does it all mean? And we start creating definitions. And the definitions are about what is love, what is power, what is man, what is woman, what is my place in it all. And whatever those earliest impressions we got in answer to that question, it's going to form a bucket where then we go through reality, looking at the 400 billion bits of information, Joe Dispenza's numbers, that are available to us at any moment. And our human minds can only process about 50 bits of information at a time coherently. And we're going to pull in the bits of reality that are available to us that match whatever that first bucket is that we developed. And that's how we're going to go through life. So we're just going to keep pulling in evidence to support whatever those ridiculous beliefs were that we formed as babies, basically. And we're going to create a life around that, because it's not only where we pull in the evidence, but we use that energy to create our next situations and our next situations. So becoming the observer, the aware presence that starts to notice all of that, you don't even really have to know where it came from. It can be, you know, valuable for some people in some cases, but we don't really even have to know, because we're still creating it. We can just look at our current life and see what we're creating, and then start to realize that this I created out of thoughts that are based in a filter that was made when I was a baby and has no basis in reality. It just starts to open up that filter. I know that you and I both teach at the Institute for Creative Living, where Jacob Norby has said, like, we're looking at life through a keyhole. So it's about expanding that keyhole, which takes some intention and some deliberate effort, because otherwise we just by default go through life seeing everything through a keyhole that matches those early bucket beliefs that really were no representation of any kind of objective reality.
Right. And I think some of us too don't realize it's a created keyhole. You can create your own. You can create your own, you know, and again, you don't need a keyhole at all, but the first one you got was created for you, but you actually have the power to use the tools available to you to create something that you like a lot more, right? I mean, you have that.
Yes.
Right. And so
that we do.
I think when we realize that reality is not what we think it is, what we've been taught that it is, that it's malleable, that it's changeable, and that we're an active participant in it, it kind of changes everything.
It does change everything. And it's a tough nut to swallow. The first time you hear it, it takes some exposure to it, some repeated exposure to the science behind it, which is a thing now. It's not even woo-woo talk anymore. It's like actual real science. It just hasn't really filtered down into common awareness yet, as is the case with all science throughout the ages.
Time. Yeah. It's funny. I was listening to another podcast. I didn't listen to podcasts before I had a podcast. And I only listened to the podcast of the people that have been on my podcast. A funny thing. But I was listening to Scott Stabile, who's going to be, thanks to Lisa making that introduction, he's going to be on the show, probably going to go live in the fall, and Jacob Nordby, who is on in February, and they have another great podcast together. And Jacob was saying, I'm all about the science and I need the science. And Scott was like, yeah, no, I don't need the science. And I'm the former scientist that doesn't need the science. Like, I'm glad the science is there, and I'm happy to talk the science as long as it's not too mathy. I don't go mathy, but I'm happy to, I love talking about the brain. I love talking about the mind and the interface between spirituality and psychology. That is definitely my jam. But I don't need the science. Like, for me, once I hear the intuition and hear the guidance makes so much more sense than the science. So I think the science is for our human selves sometimes just feel like, okay, this stuff checks.
Yeah, for our skeptic selves. I brought some of my joy scholars are local. Most of them are not. They're spread across the country, but I have a local little posse of joy scholars that came with me to this very, very, very scientific conference. And some of them were so adorably saying, like, okay, shut up about the freaking science. I already buy into this. I get it. I'm like, just give me the juicy pieces. And I'm like, I know, but isn't it fun to hear the science too, just in case? Because we all have that little skeptic part of us, is like, is this for real? Could this really be for real? This goes against everything I learned growing up. So I think it's really fun to have it shored up at that level.
I see it, but the science isn't any more real than anything else, my friend. It's all it's all part of the same thing. It's just all mind play.
Yeah, big picture.
In the best possible way. But no, I love it too. And I love that the science is lining up, because it's also showing that those two parts of our brains and those two parts, ways of doing things that we used to think had to be opposed, are coming together beautifully. And I think that's where we're heading. I really feel like I love having a left and a right brain, and I don't put anyone down. I just recognize the value in the intuition, and the value in the creativity, and the value in my spiritual connection. And I'm not ruled so much by the limits of the mind anymore. I'm starting to use it as a tool, and understanding that that's what I'm here to do. And, I think that play between science and whatever is not, whatever that means, it's just a metaphor for what's going on, Yeah,
because science only means up to this point, known and verified science, which is a tiny little blip on the left brain compared to what the right brain knows, which is infinite and cosmic and so much bigger. So I get that you would kind of poo-poo that little tiny bit of left brain knowledge that science up to this point.
Well, I don't poo-poo it. I have a PhD and I love science. So I'm a former scientist. I published in journals and everything. But I also always had the sense that our science will catch up. Our science will show us what it needs to show us. For me, things like intuition are real and true. I love that there is amazing research for the existence of every kind of psychic phenomenon. Everything. And we've had guests on the show on this too, and we've talked about it. And the effect sizes are way, 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 way stronger than anything that I did in my little lab at Princeton and got published and everything. It's amazing research. It's out there. It's been out there for a really long time. It's replicatable. I love that, because I can say that to skeptics and say, by the way, there's actually science for this too. And that makes them really happy. But it's not that I saw it in a lab that makes me believe it. What makes me believe it is the experiences that I've had, that they're so powerful, right? And when you've had enough of these experiences and you feel the magic in life and you feel the magic in intuition and your life changes in the best possible way, to me, like that's good enough. If my brain wants to come up with all the reasons why, she can have her fun with that, but at a certain point it doesn't matter. I just want to flow with it.
Oh, so well stated, for sure.
Right. But I love the science too. And if you need the science or you want, it's not an either or, it's all beautiful.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So the questions that I wrote down, unless you want to go in a different direction, but I did write down some questions and I see we have lots of, there are a couple things. No, just people watching and saying they're glad they caught the live. Hello, Janalee. It's so good to see you. And Lexi, thanks for tuning in. And anyone else who's here, those are the only people that I see. Say hello, put your names, ask a question, say how you found us. If you're a Joy School person, say that so I can say hello to you and welcome you to this group. So anyway, do that. And I will try to keep scrolling so I can find you, because sometimes Facebook is weird on the phone. But anyway, if you guys have questions, start asking them. My question, and maybe we already addressed this, but I'm putting it out there anyway. One of my questions was why sunflowers? So I guess we got there.
You're so intuitive.
Well, I just have to have something.
Weird.
We are amazing. But the top things that get in the way of our joy, I think we talked about some of them, right? Is it just our conditioning? Like, is that the answer? Did we answer that too?
I mean, that's the short answer. I always like to say, like, are habits easy to break? Hell no. Can they be broken? Yes. And the best way to break a habit is to replace it with a new habit, right? I've given the example, like alcoholics become coffee drinkers and smokers chew gum. It's like, if you want to replace a habitual thought pattern, you have to have a really clear choice in place to replace it with. And it really, I mean, habits are so strong, and especially when they're rooted in fear. Like we talked about, fear is like a addictive chemical response in the body. It takes a lot to break that fear. That's why I used to do like all kinds of like one-off joy trainings and individual sessions and stuff. I kind of cleared the slate of all of that, other than the ongoing Oasis program that meets weekly, because it's an ongoing process. Like no one's going to be able to, whatever they're willing to pay for a one-off session, it's not going to change anything. This is a bring it to your life every day process. And that's what really creates a lasting change.
Right. So that effort of doing it over time and retraining yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a question from one of my Joy Schoolers, if you want me to insert it.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Okay, because Carice couldn't be here, but she said that she wanted to ask, how do you keep your vibration up when you're around people who are at a lower vibration? This is probably a universal struggle, especially now, and I'd love to build a that word from a podcast, of strategies for this besides complete avoidance. I kind of know what my go-to answer would be, but I wanted to hear your answer.
All right, let me think on that. I may or may not have recorded an entire podcast episode on that question.
Okay.
So of course now my mind goes blank. So refer her there. Okay, but the question is, how do you stay in your vibe when the people around you aren't vibing at the same level? I mean, the first thing is, we are who we surround ourselves with. So when you have a choice, it's nice to surround yourself with as many people as you can that are lovey, amazing, high vibey people, like this lady here. I don't know if that's working. I don't know if we're the same way, because it just lights up my life to have these amazing uplifting souls in my circle, and it's such a blessing. So do that. Seek them out as your teachers, as your friends, as the podcasts you listen to, as the books that you read. Oftentimes it's better to think about bringing more of what you want into your life than taking out what you don't want, because when we focus on editing purposefully, we're focusing on how do I get rid of what I don't want, which means we're focusing on what we don't want. When we focus on what we do want and bringing that in, it tends to grow and crowd out what we don't need anyway. Okay. So that's my short answer. And, the longer answer is, with the people and the situations that you say, look, this person isn't vibing at the same level as I am, or that I would like to be, but I gave birth to them, or they gave birth to me, or, there's these, then you learn to set boundaries, and you learn to be kind to yourself and take care of yourself first, because you are the caretaker of your own energy. And it's important that you do that. You owe that to yourself, and you owe that to the world, but you don't have to cut somebody out necessarily. You just have to take care of yourself first and honor your own vibration, and set those boundaries so that you're not, just always going to the lowest common denominator and matching the energy of people that, whose energy is not at your highest vibe. So that's
love
it.
that. I agree 100%. And if there's anything that I could add to that, really great prescription for keeping your vibe high around low vibration people. One thing we talk about in Joy School is that namaste lens, where it's just about staying conscious of the fact that every one of us at our core, in our soul being, is 100% pure joy, love, and compassion. And if somebody is projecting something different from that, that is a result of life experiences. If you, as an individual vibrating being, acknowledges someone else as being a low vibration being, that just implies that you are vibrating at a higher vibration. That's just like, by the grace of God, you've had the experiences to lead to that. You've had the opportunities to correct whatever low vibration conditioning you've had. This person has not had that. And when you really kerclunk on that, you can just have a default setting where you send joy. You just send love, send compassion. That's my go-to. And I've had to pull it out recently. I know Victoria is very aware of a family situation I've had. My Joy Scholars are aware, where I just consciously send love to these beings that I truly, truly, authentically love every day, in spite of knowing that they're not sending it back, not really in a spot to receive it from me. But that's how I keep my side clean. It's like, when your side is clean, and I kind of feel like when you're intentionally sending love out into the world, onto people, you're sort of creating this force field around you. Absolutely. That their negative vibrations are not really going to be able to penetrate that when you are intentional about sending love, and it's authentic and it's from your heart, and you're wanting that to be your intention with these beings. You're pretty much protected, I feel.
Absolutely. And you said two things that are really important in there. One, there's no need to judge someone as low or high vibration. It's just what resonates with you and what doesn't. There's no judgment about it. There's no ranking at the end of the day.
Right.
Everyone's here doing exactly what they're supposed to do in the way that they're meant to do it. You just have to do you. And so no judgment involved. But if it doesn't resonate with you and it doesn't feel good to you, then you're right for you. Right? They might be right for them, but you're right for you. So you don't even have to get into that. And then the other piece is, I think when you're sending the love and joy and you're dealing with someone in those kind of situations, it's important to recognize, let them do them. Send the love, not because you want them to be different than who they are as they're presenting, even if you would know how to do it for them, or you feel that you know a better way, and you might. But you have to let them be where they're at. It's not about changing someone with your love, right? Or healing someone with your love. It's simple. It might happen, but it's about loving them as they are, and then freeing yourself, right? To be who you are and where you are.
Brilliant distinction. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Yay. All right. I'm going to try to make this phone work to see if there's anything else. Trisha is watching.
Trisha's a Joy Schooler. Hi, honey.
Sylvia is watching, who's a Joy School person, and it feels awesome to say this. Thank you for this awesome talk you are having. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for joining our group. I hope to see you again. And I'm looking at her like she's over there because it's on my phone.
She's on your phone, sure.
So,
well,
yeah.
They are very familiar with you, Victoria, because you have been guiding me in developing my intuition, and I have been passing that along to the Joy School community. So we've been using a lot of your advice, your insights, your exercises, and you are a presence in our Joy School.
Beautiful. Thank you. That just makes my day in ways that you can't even imagine. All right. My last question.
We're almost done.
We're going to laugh so much. I literally wrote this down on my piece of paper, and it's going to be funny when we think about our conversation before we went live. But I wrote, Lisa, how did you get to be so cool? Yeah, go take that one. We got the sunflowers. How did you get? That's my last question. So you guys might need to give us some questions. How did you get to be so cool?
Okay, without giving away too much of our private conversation prior to going live today.
But I just want you to know, I really wrote that down. No, because Lisa's so cool. And I have to tell you too, like when you write, I'm like an awkward writer. I'm like, and I was a very socially awkward child. So I have that feel, it doesn't, I mean, it will go away eventually. I don't want to pigeonhole, but like, it's part of the conditioning. And like, she's so cool. Like when she emails or like texts, like you're just so cool. And yeah, I get the image, and I've seen this with some of my clients, right? Where you're sitting at the lunch table with and some kids are just like so quick to respond. And other kids like have their like thumbs up their nose. Like I feel like I'm the second one. And with you, I'm like, she's so cool. So that's what I was talking about. Overshare.
Okay, that is hysterical. So since we're doing overshare, I have this theory in life that I don't know where I got it, so it might be worth nothing, but this is my theory in life, that we gravitate toward romantic partners, friendships, business partnerships, in hopes of what I think I've written about, calling it the rub-off effect. Okay. So from my first exposure to you, you just had this, I'm going to be who I be in the world. I'm going to put it all right out there. You can like me, you cannot like me, but there's no way I am monitoring in any tiny sense who I be in the world. And something in my deep subconscious woke up, because that's my lifelong commitment and struggle. And it's been a struggle because I was very, very, very much not that. And I know I've made great strides. I know I'm pretty good at being who I be in the world, but I saw in you, I think subconsciously, I want that rub off effect. I want to be around this person. This person is being all of who they are. And you have not disappointed in our recent friendship. You just put it out there. And to me, that is like the height of cool. And we were talking about a different subject before we came on tonight, where I accused you of being a cool girl, where I was like, well, of course you're like the cool girl. So, and that is so funny that you wrote that down for me. I was so not the cool girl. You go look up and, you call anybody in my schooling experience, I was the last person who would ever be considered the cool girl. But my impression of you is that you are.
Likewise. And you know what I wrote down when you were talking, which is why I think the guides gave us this question, or someone gave us this question, who knows where it came from, is cool as being who you are.
It is.
That's the ultimate cool, guys. Like I found that in my life too. The more free I am to just do me, the more I attract the people that I want to be with, the more fun I have. And the little worry voice sometimes comes up, especially because she's so cool when she like texts and writes, and she always like, I just think you really are. And I always feel like awkward, but it's all good, right? Because like I could be awkward. Awkward's who I am, right? And maybe it's
awkward's the new cool. Ask any
awkward
schooler. Awkward's the new school.
Going exactly. So that's what I wrote when you were talking, and I love it. Cool is being who you are, and I think that is the ultimate cool, and it's being comfortable being who you are, or being comfortable with not being comfortable who you are at this moment, because that happens for all of us sometimes too.
And putting that out there, right, with everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And young kids get it, like high school in our day, and I know your day was a little later than my day, but high school, now like kids kind of get that, like the new media, even the new songs, the new, like it's like every generation is better. Youth is better than we are.
Agreed 1,000%.
We're moving in that good direction.
Yeah. And I get so many amazing. Now, do you work with kids too? I was hearing that on the podcast today. Talk to us about that a little bit, because I work with kids and teens and love it, but I want to hear what you do.
I only work with kids and teens right now in my capacity as P5 president. I have a separate life apart from my Joy School life, which is my P5 president life, where I work with transgender youth and LGBTQ youth. And yeah, I mean, they think the world sucks. Understandably, there is legislation and a lot of things happening that would completely shore up that belief for them. But it's always my hope and intention to show them that as bad as it is, it's better than it's ever been. And just the fact that there are so many who are able to live their truth right now and able to come out with it and talk about it and be there in it, that's a big difference from my day and a lot of the days in between, so we have to keep our eye on the prize, keep our eye on the big picture, go back to how we started this with, we are still a toddler in terms of humanity. We're going to fall down. We're going to have a few steps forward and then some messy, nasty old steps backward, but we're going in the right direction. I believe we got to hold that vision.
I love that. And again, I feel like a lot of, and hopefully this isn't, you'll tell me if this comment is offensive to anyone. I don't think it will be, but I feel like a lot of the transgender movement, it's not a movement, but I think first of all, it shows that there's a freedom for people to explore this where there never was before. Right. And I think there's always been people for whom it was unavoidable and closeted, but I think there's just more and more people that are free to explore. I think there's more and more souls coming in that are interested in exploring androgyny. And I think we're seeing that too. And I think that even though there's a backlash against it, there's actually more acceptance overall, or it wouldn't be so visible and it wouldn't be happening. So that's my theory.
There's a little corollary that I use sometimes where, there was a time in recent history when being left-handed was thought to be a curse, and you would go to school and you would be shamed out of being left-handed, and you would be taught to replace that horrible habit with using your right hand, because right-handedness is what we're meant to do, and anything other than right-handedness is just wrong. And it seemed like a very, very small percentage of the population was naturally left-handed. And then science came out and said, absolutely, that's crazy. It doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. And it got, the shame got let go around it. And it seemed like there was this tremendous rise in left-handed kids. And then it just plateaued right where it always has been, just like natural plateau. And it's the exact same thing with transgender kids. There have always been this number of transgender individuals. They just have never, ever had the example or the ability to express who they naturally are until now. There will seem to be a rise like there is right now, and then there will be a plateau as we just get used to the idea as a society that people come in all kinds of ways and they're all equally deserving of our compassion and love. Phew, yeah. Big idea, right?
Yeah, but I also think they're really brave souls too that are in the forefront of us understanding that these rigid designations and divisions aren't necessary anymore. And again, sure, the highest form of uniqueness is being who you are without a label, right? Sure. And I think a lot of kids and adolescents, and I mean, it varies, are really brave in saying, like, I resist these labels. I want to be who I am and feel into what I am. And that's transgender, that's non-binary, I just think it opens up a brave new world of amazingness. So
I always tell them they are the superheroes moving humanity forward. They bought into this package deal, which was not an easy path to traverse. And they're just doing it for the ones who come behind them, and they're the trailblazers.
Yeah, and they love you. Oh my God, I can see how much they love you and what a gift you are to all of them.
They love me.
So we have to wrap up in a minute.
Why?
Because I figured you don't have all night to talk to me, but if you do, we can keep going. It's only 5 o'clock here. But I don't know why throughout this, I've wanted to share, I hope this relates to Joy School and it's not just a weirdness, but I've wanted to share something that I've been doing a lot that I'm finding really, really, really helpful for me. Okay. And it speaks to the relationship between self-love and joy, which I think they're like this. And we've talked about, a lot of buzzwords. We've talked about love. We've talked about authenticity. We've talked about, but I mean, I think that loving stance that you take to yourself is so important for finding your joy, right? I mean, it's sort of at the pinnacle of everything.
I want to call out Scott Stabile. If you're resonating with what Victoria is saying, be sure to tune into the Scott Stabile episode coming up.
Yeah. And he's, oh my God, I could listen to that gentleman talk all day. He just took my words right away, which is a hard thing to do.
My brother, I adore him. Okay.
But one of my favorite practices right now, I'm going to demonstrate, is this. Try it. It is dreamy. Just notice how like soft, like when you kiss, isn't it beautiful?
Yes.
I don't know, but so it's so simple. If you don't want to do it in public, I understand. I do, but that's because my because I'm just all about just being who I am. But this is such a primal thing. And I don't know, this might be a thing and someone might text and go, hey, Victoria, this is so-and-so's technique. And if it is, I didn't steal it. I just started doing it.
It's our middle school technique of looking like you're making out with someone from behind, right?
Oh, really? I never did that. See, she is cooler than me. She said that she wasn't, but she was. I was not fake making out when I was in middle school.
Now it's for sure that I am cooler because I knew that like if you do it from behind, it looks like you got somebody and you're making out.
Really? No, it just feels so good. So I don't know who needed to hear this, but hug and the kissing is really important too. It feels so good to kiss yourself. Seriously. It does not preclude being hugged and kissed by other human beings too, because that also feels really good. It's not one or the other, but it just comes through that the love that we give to ourselves is the catalyst, and also the, what's the other word that's not catalyst, foundation. It's both of everything that we bring in, right? And it's from that place that we connect with our joy, right? And that we become our joy, and that we re-experience our joy. And I don't know, those are all the words that are coming through. So I just wanted to share that.
I'm so used to doing my podcast that I want to say, that's your home play, y'all. I always doing my podcast.
Playing home play, because yeah, I want all 7 eyeballs and everyone on the replay to be kissing themselves. It's all good.
Home play is just some little trick, some little like thought that we keep in our minds and hold in our perception shift, or some activity or something that we do just to remind us to stay in this energy between the times that we meet, between week to week podcasts. And I always call out something that my guest has said or I provided if nothing has come up organically. Just go do that and try it out and make it a weekly practice, make it deliberate, because until we make these things deliberate, which can feel awkward as hell at first because we're not in this habit, but it's about bringing that intentionality to it, that conscious commitment. That's what makes the shift to gradually move it toward becoming a default setting that is just natural to us. So go do that make out with yourself thing that Victoria just showed.
I definitely call it that. Call it making out with yourself. I love that. Yeah. Nothing.
I swear there are like teeny bopper movies that have this. I'm gonna have to find it and send you an
Really?
example.
All right. No, I believe you. I was not that creative, I guess, but it just feels really nice to give yourself a hug. Oh, it seems like Barbara Smith said, seems like the perfect way to start your day before getting out of bed. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And I do it sometimes when I need a hug, when the voice in your head is being really loud and annoying and you're just like starting to feel like a little bit down, give yourself a hug. That's what you need. Give yourself a kiss. I can't tell you how good that feels. I don't know. Could just be me.
Tell Scott about that one. He needs
that. Tell Scott. Victoria says kiss yourself. And you can. It's really easy. Animals do it all the time. So, well, they clean themselves. I mean.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, you don't need to do that. You can use the shower for actual hygiene.
Unless it feels good.
You're right. Do you, whatever is you do.
No judgment.
Oh my God, one more thing came through and now I lost it. And it was a good place to end. So do you have anything? And we'll see if it wants to come back.
Then go.
Okay. What I was saying is, I think it's so powerful when you're talking about shifting, changing, doing joy. It's about, the word that comes through is, and it's so weird because it's a scary word, but it's not. It's about vigilance. It's about being aware. It's about noticing. It's about commitment. And all of these words that I just said, or some of them have a heavy tone, like it has to be work. But see, it's actually not work. It's actually joy. It's actually finding the joy and just gently, when you notice you're not in that state and you can be, moving back, right? And so it's really about awareness and then aligned action.
And what if elevating your baseline joy set point is a little work? What if it is a little bit about some work and diligence and self-monitoring, and it requires a little effort? Isn't it worth it to like
Oh, absolutely.
level your joy set point
Absolutely.
on an ongoing basis?
Yeah.
It's worth it.
I'm just speaking to those people. I don't know anyone like that sometimes that feels like, or has that conditioning. I think I'm pretty good now, but has that conditioning that I have to work at it, has to be hard, so I'm going to earn my reward. And I'm speaking to that person. I'm speaking to that person that it doesn't actually have to. If it is, that's okay. That's okay. But again, it's about finding the joy in that. It's finding the joy in that, the allowing in that. And yeah, I do agree that whenever we're shifting, it feels awkward, right? It might feel a little uncomfortable because you're used to one thing and your mind likes to cling to what it's used to. That is actually, the system wants to find homeostasis. That's how it's made. But your spirit actually wants to grow and expand and change constantly. So when you're in that, then and letting that guide, then you can again give the human self her little hug and say, I know this is stretchy for you. We're going to go gentle. We're going to go slow. I love you. And you got this, but we want to go this way now. So I'm giving myself another.
Yeah, this is stretchy for you. Oh, it's so sweet.
Yeah.
That is so sweet. I do love that.
Yay. I love you, Lisa. Thank you so much.
I love you, sweet boo.
All right, let me see if I'm missing anything else. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This was so much fun. Listen to the episode. If you feel called, join Joy School or the Oasis program. Check Lisa out there. And then you're doing this through the Institute for Creative Living, right? Now, is that?
That's where it's housed. Yeah. So it just comes with a few extra bonus benefits at the Institute, some discounts for the other things that are going on there. So yeah, Joy School is kind of taking up residence at the Institute.
Okay. And I love it there because that's where we met.
Right.
So it has a near and dear place to my heart just because of that. So I think Lexi's on the live. So if you can if you can find that, Lexi's new, so she may or may not be able to pull off this thing I'm asking her to do. But if you can find that information and put it in the comments, that would be great. And if not, Lisa or I maybe can cycle back at some point. And
it's just lisamccourt.com.
Okay, or just that. I mean, but like to find you. But listen to the episode. The episode is also amazing. And we talk about all sorts of things that we did not talk about here. So don't think you've heard it all because you haven't. And check out Lisa's podcast because she has these amazing guests and she really
Victoria was one of them.
Her magic. And yeah, thank you. And that was a really fun conversation too. So you can definitely listen to that. And thank you for all the new people tuning in too that I didn't know before that joined because Lisa's here. And I hope to see you guys again to play in this community as well. All right. So thank you everyone. And look at that. She did it. She posted it in the comments. So
Lexi's a keeper.
Yeah, Lexi's definitely a keeper. I'm very excited. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And next week's episode is on how our spirit guides communicate with us. And I may or may not be coming live at this very time because it seems to be a good very time to talk about spirit guides, answer your questions, and maybe just maybe if it comes through, connect some of you with your guides. So stay tuned for that. It is probably happening. And I will see you guys when I see you. Bye.
I will remind the Joy Scholars of that. Love you, darling.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right, now we're not live, so we can chat for a minute. I know you have to go, right? You look like you posted like another event or something that you were doing after this.
I did?
Yeah, I thought.
Oh, I posted a thing that's on TV for people, like a pride thing. I just wanted them to go to. Like, I don't care if I'm there for that. That was just like a go support.
Okay, cool.
I was like Kate Perry. I'm not like involved with Kate Perry.
I don't know. That was so much fun. We have to do this every day. That was awesome.
Every day would be perfect.
Yay. It was really, really, really fun. And I loved your interview today. And I was very honored that you mentioned me twice in the interview. It made me really happy. You're such a gift. I think you mentioned me twice.
Today was
when you didn't use my name, but you mentioned your friend who took a class and You gave two examples. I think they came from me because they're both things that I say. But
Wait, was it the Pride episode? No, what did I post?
No.
Oh, Sunny.
Yeah.
Sunny.
And Sunny's great. Now I want a reading with Sunny because I want Sunny to like tell me that my soulmate is coming and that it's okay.
Yeah, that was like for sure the thing that blew me away the most. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, okay. So that would have been you. I'm trying to, because I did that one with her a while ago. Usually I post my recordings like pretty much like right away,
I
but
think it was because they were both examples like that I've given, but I'm
all right,
the only
good.
one in the world.
Oh, good.
But you recorded that a while ago.
Not as immediate as I usually post it because I know she was supposed to be when I did the Pride episode, but then I did Pride and then Miguel. I needed to do Miguel earlier than I thought, so she was postponed for a couple of weeks. But anyway, I'm sure I did. I don't even remember. I don't go back and listen to them. I have the conversation and I post it, and no, but I feel like I would be super critical if I did go back and listen.
I listened to my pod. This is my crazies. This is because I'm the lady who kisses herself on Facebook multiple times because it feels good. But it really feels good, doesn't it? Is it just me? I think
I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it.
And I didn't even know, like, I mean, again, my self-love, but it feels so good to kiss yourself. I'm like, why don't I always do this? Why don't we teach people to do this for themselves?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm better now. But I listen to my podcast all the time. It soothes me because a lot of times when I'm doing it, I'm there. The real me is there, but the part of me that's, more distressed.
Wanting to make sure that it's, yeah.
So when I listen to my podcast, I'm like, oh, she's so nice. I like her. And I find it very soothing. True story.
Your voice on your podcast doesn't sound the same to me as your real life voice.
I don't know what happens. Yeah. Well, part of it is the amazing Blue Yeti microphone, which is like someone early on said, if you're doing like guided meditations, you have to have this microphone. So I bought the microphone. I don't know why, for my podcast. And now everyone says they're terrible because they pick up all the background noise. And even my editor said, well, you can get a cheaper mic, buy this mic. And we played it for a couple episodes and she's like, yeah, no, you need the Blue Yeti. I'm like, it just makes my voice sound so good.
Your voice sounds so melodic and just like angelic. Not that your regular voice isn't, but when I hear the podcast, it's like, wow, like that is so.
I don't know what happens. I think part of it is hearing it like the way I'm hearing the guidance. Not always. Sometimes I'm kind of stressy, but also I think part of it's the microphone. True story. It's just such a nice microphone. It makes your voice sound. So yeah, I like that too. And I think I'm different too when I'm reading than when I'm talking, like, because you're in a different space. Like I go in and out of my intuition all the time. I like to think, but clearly when I'm on doing the podcast or with, or with a guest ideally, or in a session, you're in I'm just more there than not because that's what's being asked. So it's very freeing.
Yeah.
But we got to be human too. I don't mind being human too. Today I got to walk in the beach with my feet in the, with my knees in the surf and, so being human, it doesn't suck either.
No, there's a reason we picked it.
I agree. I have this theory that I picked it a lot of times. So I must like it more than I sometimes think that I do. Yay. All right, let's play again soon.
I know. Sure. So I play with you tomorrow night, but then that's the last one of that.
I know. I don't want that to stop. I need to always teach. Teaching makes me so happy. So I don't know what to do next.
Yes, it makes the people that learn from you happy as well. But if that's ending, we have to put like a weekly cappuccino or something on our calendar.
I would love that. I would love that. And I'm going to teach, I want to do an empaths class next, but I kind of want to teach it different. And it's not just because I have this strange vendetta now. I'm just gonna, I already told you, right? My Judith Orloff thing.
I don't think so. Start telling me.
Judith Orloff was this is between you and I. Judith Orloff it makes me sad. She was my teacher for many, many, many years. Like directly, I worked with her. She was kind of one of my many mentors and she totally fucked me over during my issue. It was the most horrible experience I've ever had. I hope she's senile and that's the reason why she did that. But the read of other people is it was a side of her personality I just had never seen before. So
I think
I
you
don't like to
hinted
think
at that
about
with
it.
me, but you said you didn't want to talk about, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it because she's well known and because, you know, my monkey mind is pissed and I'm mad at her because she puts herself out one way. And I got a lot of value from working with her for sure. And I think she puts a lot of value out into the world, but I now don't believe she walks the talk anymore. It was awful.
Weird
And
little detail that I got to throw in there. I'm
huh?
pretty sure, weird little detail that I got to throw in there. I'm pretty sure I edited her at one point. Like, did she have a first book with HCI, Health Communications? Because I used to do a lot of their work and I feel like I know her through Health Communications because I know that name from somewhere and I think I worked on one of
She's
her books.
super well known. She's like probably the most well-known person writing about empaths. And she tried to kind of burst out of the empaths thing. And she wrote this book called The Ecstasy of Surrender. It was a bad book. Also, who would ever let her call it that? I don't know. I mean, I get the idea, but I was like, why did they just no? And it actually did let her call it that. But all of her other books on empaths are excellent. And she was one of the first early people I read, and it was really impactful for me. And she was helpful too, because like I was being an intuitive counselor and she's an intuitive psychiatrist for real. So I used her for supervision early on. You know, but she's way more left brain and by the books and science-based and fear-based, even though she doesn't know that she is. And that's, I think, what happened. And there were some other things thrown in the mix too. And my energy attracted it for sure. It was part of what I was working on. But anyway, it's also gotten me to really think about partially vendetta, but I think partially too, just like for real, like there's this real victim-y aspect of the whole empath thing. Right.
That's interesting.
And I really want to teach it in a more empowered way. I've always used the term empowered empath when I teach, because I don't know, I think I took that from the title of someone's book. Because I'm not good at cutesy things, but and titles. So I might need your help with that someday, my friend. But I want to teach because I think it's so common now that people are overgivers and are overcarers and are overfeelers. And I don't think it's just that you're sensitive, although managing sensitivity is part of it. I think a lot of us have this other conditioning, and it's really about being in, it's like your guest, whoever the heck, I don't remember names, even though I want her to do a reading for me now. Sunny said, yeah, she's like, I had to own my sensitivity and I had to like be comfortable with it. And I had to turn it into a good thing and set boundaries with it. Like and I'm sure Judith would say the same thing, but it's just around seeing it that way. Cause so many empaths are like, I'm an empath and like, shoot me. Like, I can't, I have to like stay away from people. And I don't know. So I'm trying to find another way to say it, maybe not even with the word empath at all. So anyway, but I might just teach the class and see what comes through rather than feeling like I have to figure out how I'm going to teach the class before I teach it, because I'll get the right people no matter what I do. So
well, sign me up.
Oh, all right. I will. I think that there's a lot of people in this class that would benefit too.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. I don't know. Do you get a vibe if I should go to yoga or if I should just rest for the rest of the day?
Is there a meetup option? Because I'm feeling meetup.
I was supposed to go with friends. People invited me to their women's circle, but I just think it's going to be too much. They're new friends and I really like them, but I just don't think I can sit in someone's living room right now and follow their thing. You think I should go? We felt into it. Robin tested it.
What did Robin say? Don't do it.
Karen and Robin both said I wouldn't want to do it. So it's
all right. Well, I can't compete with that.
Well, I have to say though, I listened to you around. I think it's more because this Judith Orloff probably triggered like the alone thing, and so being with people might be like a good, reset. But yeah, sometimes I just don't like following other people's stuff. I'm very picky. Like I listen to your podcast. I listen to Jacob and Scott's podcast because like your bandwidth is here, like to mine, or maybe we're here. I don't know, but we're close. And sometimes you're a little above, but like a lot of people aren't. It's not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just boring.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Get that. Did you see the comment I made in our podcast? It's so funny. I meant to say this while we were talking because this was kind of interesting. But when I listened because I wanted to know what we had already talked about. So I'm going to talk about it again. So I listened to us today.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I commented on it on your group.
Oh, I missed it. I was doing so many things. I probably didn't know that's what you were saying.
The thing that I was like chuckling about is we both are such fast talkers.
And I know. I did catch that. I didn't get the context.
I feel like normally I like set the intention to modulate myself. I'm like, okay, just like take it down. You're going to want to talk fast, just, like, but, and also I entrain to like the person that I'm talking to. So I'm like, okay, match that. You can do this. But then you and me were both just like, I have something to say about that. I want to share this with you. It was like so funny. I was cracking up at us both. Like, but I think that it's like, okay, so I used to think,
and I don't know, I've thought a lot and I can't tell if it's intuition or thought that I do need to slow down because I talk very fast.
But I love that. That's why I could listen to you.
I feel like in a way, I could be wrong, but I feel, and there are times when they slow me down like so much, like the way Eckhart Tolle talks to my guides. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But a lot of times when information's coming through, like, I think it's good that people can't process it. What I mean is that like today, but maybe I'm wrong. So guides, tell me if I'm wrong, or Lisa, tell the guides tell Lisa to tell me that I'm wrong. I could be. I feel sometimes like my person today, she wasn't really ready to hear everything that she needed to hear because I said it all the last time I talked to her. I actually sent her to you because she just needs something regular. And I said, like, you should really be, I don't usually say this, but you should be working with me regularly. Like, you need, it's not gonna, like, exactly like you said. And I don't usually tell people that because I don't like to take their money that way, but like, I'm like, you need something regular. So be it yours or mine, it doesn't matter, or both. But sometimes I rapid fire too, because they hear it all, but they can't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of Eckhart Tolle, speaking very slowly so that you kind of half fall asleep. If you're not really present, like for me, I just firebomb people and then, like they get every third word and that's enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I just get so excited.
But I appreciate it because that's what like frustrates me listening to other podcasts is it's just like, get to the point, and with Eckhart Tolle, for some reason, I don't feel that way because he's so present and you get every word has like meaning. And it's like, I don't know, for some reason, Eckhart
it's not the words, it's the presence.
It's the
when
presence.
You listen to Eckhart Tolle, he just gets you really present. Did I tell you I spent an entire 2 or 3 years of just listening to Eckhart Tolle, like sleeping with Eckhart Tolle, hiking with Eckhart Tolle.
Biggest teacher. Yes, me too.
Yeah, I know all his stories. I feel like I know that I never met him. I'm sure you probably have, but
he doesn't remember me. I remember him. Yeah, I met him once.
Now, and it's interesting because Karen thinks he's like, she can't stand him. And she's like, listen, look at his book. And she thinks it's so ego. And I was like, really? That's the one thing I'm like, really? Like, I can see a little like early on, but like, I don't know. He just seems so like, I don't get that from him. So I don't listen to him anymore. It's like done for me right now, but it definitely helped cultivate. It definitely shifted something like hugely, for sure. And it's listening. It's just listening to him, because even if I'm not hearing what he says, it doesn't matter.
You're right. It's a transmission of energy directly from him.
And I think that's why a lot of what you do and what I do and what the podcast is, and people know it. My client had no idea what I was talking about today, and she had no idea what she was going to do with it. And her brain couldn't keep up with it. And it could have been a fail. I don't know. But she was smiling, like she was crying a little bit too, a couple moments, but a lot of moments, like she was feeling what I was saying, even if she wasn't understanding it. Do you know what I mean? She was feeling the energy wave. So, and that's what right? We know that it's not coming from here. It comes from here last. That's the backwards ass way to do it.
You're right.
Right? It's the way we've all been trained to do it, and it will work, but just really slowly. And how many bodies do we want to learn it through?
Yeah.
Because you have to start over in each new body. It's like a lot of work that way.
Yes.
But I think it is true too. There's like that, that energy advance. There's, how do I say it? It's like Sandra Ingerman. I love Sandra Ingerman and shamanic journeying, but I go in, I go out, I'm done. You know, you take one of her classes, it's like drum, 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 go here. I'm like, why are we drumming so long? I did it, I'm done. You know? And even my friend Michelle, the sound healing that I went to, and she's lovely. And there's something about us and something like, I mean, she's a little more in her head, but she's lovely. And I know we have some weird past life thing. And at the beginning of that class, before she started teaching, she's like, oh yeah, I just move around to the music. I went somewhere. I'm like, I don't know where I went. Like, it was amazing. I'm like, I want to do that again. I thought it was the music she chose, but she sent me the music. I'm like, nope, wasn't the music. It was you. But when she's teaching, it was like, can we just get to the, like she's breaking everything down. I'm like, no, can we just do it? Like, I think some of it's just, we just have the innate knowing how to do it. We don't need the preamble.
Yeah.
You know, and that's okay.
We get impatient.
Yeah.
We're spiritually impatient.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think it's bad, but it's funny hearing that from you, because I feel like, and again, I think this is my monkey mind, because I think that cool is being who you are. See, I wrote it down when you were talking, so I was hearing you. Not that you can see that or could read it. I can barely read it myself, and I can see it right ways and in person. But I'm like, yeah, like Jacob and Lisa, like they teach so much more simply. I'm like so complex, but it's probably not even true, right? It's probably just, I got to just do me. Just got to, like, you know, when I first did my podcast, I played it for one of my teachers, and she said, people that don't know this stuff are going to have no idea what to do with you. And people that know this stuff already are going to love it. And I had to make peace with that. I was like, okay, that checks, right? I'm not going to be the person that's going to introduce intuition to people that have never heard of it before, because that would bore the shit out of me.
And we need to hear it again and again through different viewpoints and different filters and different perspectives, because that's what lets it land and solidify.
Yeah.
That's what makes it real.
I think so. Yeah. Like I said, twice today, I'm like, I just delivered the same session twice, and the people probably don't even know it. They probably don't know. I don't usually remember, but in both cases, I was like, I just told her all of this last time I talked to her, and the exact same thing's coming through again. Because sometimes people just like, they didn't hear it the first time, but they knew they needed to hear it. So they booked me again.
No, that's absolutely true. I find that a lot with my joy schoolers, that I'll say something that I know I've said 20 times, and suddenly they'll say, oh, you know, like they've never heard it before. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I've been saying this, for weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes you hear it, like there's the hearing it a lot of times. See, this is what I love. These are the conversations I want to have all the time with everybody. I'm so grateful. I know you've been doing this a while, but this is new to me to have this, this league of people that I can do this with. So I just wanted to share that I'm very blessed and touched. It means a lot. Yeah. Hug you. But I don't know, this might not be what you said at all, but this is where my brain is going. It's where it was going before. It probably has nothing to do with what you just said, but you just gave me like such the idea that I was taught a long time ago that when I do a session, it should stand alone. They should always stand alone. And it should always be that someone can get value just from that one thing. And I still believe that, but I'm also feeling like it'll be a separate offering that I offer that will be ongoing, kind of like your Oasis. So that because people sometimes need somewhere to go with it. And weekly sessions are expensive, but also overkill.
Absolutely. I believe that's true. And then you can actually be present and read the energy and see what they need in that moment. And sometimes they need a slow down, and sometimes they're ready for you to go forward. I used to, before I did the ongoing classes, I did I did like a course, an 8-week course. It was a disaster because I had my content that I wanted to cover for each of the 8 weeks, and I couldn't go with the flow of them, because if somebody was like having a moment and processing too long, I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to be behind schedule. I can maybe save that for next week, but we're going to have to double up. You know, it was like, I just like,
that's why I never know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah. It's so much better to just leave the room, to go with the energy and read it and give people the time they need for different concepts.
Yeah. Except that moment when you're like, what am I going to talk about? But I'm getting used to it.
There's always something for that moment. can always have your little backup.
I'm an intuitive. All I have to do is pause for 3 seconds and it comes. Like, that's what I freaking do. But the left brain is like,
For sure.
so and it's funny. I once had an astrologer tell me, she's like, Victoria, you have the chart of someone who, when you give a talk, you have to know exactly what you're saying. And I was like, it was true. If I was giving a talk, even in my intuitive days, I would intuit the whole talk. Then I would practice it 3 times in front of my stuffed animals. For real. I would get my stuffed animals because I am that grown woman child. And then I would give the talk, which would sometimes be completely different than the first 3 iterations, but at least I would know that I had something. Yeah. And then during this whole craziness, in the last year, the number of times that I've taught with nothing, because I think the guides wanted me to get used to having nothing. Like I'd be like, what the hell am I going to talk about? I'm driving home, and they would give me like a great idea or something, or I'm like deer in the headlights. And now I'm back to sort of like, I feel into it. I get a couple things. So I have a direction. We usually do that direction. Some of this direction we did before we got on the thing. And it just makes me, it gives me some comfort, but I'm not wedded to it. And it's like, this is not going to be like, oh my God, Lisa and I didn't get to how she's so cool. Like, I would be okay with that.
I am at the cusp of trying to get to that place where you are. I still plan out every Oasis session. I plan out every podcast, but I'm getting better and better at, okay, this is just like a fallback. I'm going to just see where it goes. I'm just going to, and it goes so much better when I don't go to what I planned.
But it doesn't feel planned. When I was interviewed by you, it didn't feel that way. I've been on shows of people where it feels that way, like where they're like, oh, we have to get back to the topic that we were going to talk about. And it's just like, oh, really? Like, really?
Yeah,
we were going somewhere, and then you're like, oh, we got to go back. I'm like, but like, I don't feel that with you.
Hopefully that means that conversation was such flow that I didn't even go to whatever I had in my back pocket. Yeah. I don't remember, but yeah, that's what I
never feels like a flow. And like the one that you did for Pride Week, like it was beautiful. And obviously that went some planning. You had to decide who you were going to get and when you were going to get them. But it didn't feel scripted at all.
Good.
So if the script is helping you not be a deer in the headlights, and sometimes too, the script will help you. It's like in there, right? And then when you get up there, you don't need the script. Like an actor has a script, but when they're on stage, they may be saying the words, but they're somewhere else. They're in the moment. So I think you're in the moment. I think it's fine. And the guides are also saying that there's some materials, and I could probably use more of this, but so far it hasn't happened. Like you give tangibles that are really helpful for people. I'm trying to learn to give tangibles.
What do you mean by that?
I tend to like just talk and give wisdom, but people want to know what they can do. Like Karen gives tangibles. She's like, she gave me all these weird but the homework was super helpful. Like I see how it was super helpful. It was mostly playing with words. I played with a lot of high vibey words for a lot of months, even when I wasn't feeling any of them. But they were beautiful. I mean, it was great. It was great homework to like kind of feel into that energy. But I wouldn't have thought it like I'm trying to give, because people like to do too.
Yeah, I try to at least get that one tangible every episode. That's the intention.
Yeah, and it's good. It's good, and people appreciate that because look, I think people get lost in the doing. So I don't try to do too much doing, because again, that's the thing. People will think like, well, if I do this, and this, I'll get there. No. So, like it's not about the doing, but when the doing is like codifying the intention, right? And so when we take aligned action, it's like we live in this 3D world. So when we make the intention tangible, right, that's how we start to move the flow of energy, right? So I'm learning more of because people are always like, okay, but what do I do about it? And I'm like, I don't know. Like you're doing it. I said it. It's gonna, because I also know that when I say it, it's already happening. Yeah. Like when it happens in a session and your spirit and these eardrums have heard what I said and registered part of it, it's already happening.
Yes.
And I've seen that again and again. Your mind will catch up with it or it won't, but it's already happening. But people do like the doing. They like the doing. And if I do retreats, I think they want to do something. I sat in Karen's retreat, which was lovely, but the one thing I took away, and I love her so much. It was so much sitting and listening. I was like, no one can do this. Even if it's someone I love talking, even if it's me, I can talk forever. I'm doing it right now. But the retreat, definitely, I'm like, when I do my retreats, it will be less of me talking as much as I love to talk.
And if you just needed like some breaks from that, I was just telling the Joy Scholars about your walk and talks, and
Yeah.
like you could give an assignment, like, okay, we covered a lot of ground in the last hour.
Yeah.
Go
Ooh.
take a walk with your phone, and from your own point of perspective, like talk into your phone what you got from that, and that way you'll have it.
Oh, brilliant, Lisa. All right, you just planned my first retreat. Or they can journal.
Or they
I know a lot of people are journalers, or they can just sit under a tree and meditate. So those are 3 options. I love that. Right. Or if they want to discuss, they can break off into small groups, because we all learn differently.
You could give them A, B, C, D. What do you want to do with your information that you just absorbed? Yes.
I love that. And we could play around with the different options. I love that. Wait till you see the property and you see how easy it is to do that. Well, I'm not going to yoga now, but this was more fun.
I'm sorry. Did I take you? Are you just in time for
for another walk? I love the yoga class because it's right on the bluff overlooking the water. And she's like a great teacher, but it's at 5:30, so I won't get there in time. All right, I'm going to flip a coin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good. Friends
that means you're supposed to go to the meeting with the other people.
It might be, even though everything said no. It might be that now I kind of need the distraction.
You just never know who you're going to meet, what you're going to hear, what's going to be like available there for you. You never know.
Yeah, it's more my fear of like
having to participate in
the, yeah, having to participate when it's not at my energy level. I mean, that sounds, but some of it's fear-based, I have to admit, because I have up until now conditioning that says I need to match the energy of whoever's around me to make them happy, or they'll get mad at me, because that was my mother, right? Mm-hmm. And so like the way to get love is to match. The only way is to take whatever you get and match that energy and make that person happy. So I'm working on it, but like sometimes it's like pleasing the teacher, but worse. So the guides say I'm pretty much over that, and I'm just being silly now, but I'm skittish too, because I had an energy abusive parent, like not just like, so I'm just, and also it's the same thing. Like you want to be around, they're really lovely people. And I'm excited to have them as new friends. And I'm also hanging out with 2 of them this weekend. And I think the main reason why I don't want to not go is I don't want to insult them, which is a bad reason to go.
I don't know. Right? Maybe you're totally cluing in on it all right now. And I'm just
I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to eat something and then I'm going to decide, because I told her I wouldn't know until the last minute. And she said that was fine. And it's only like a 10-minute drive. So.
All right. I love you.
Thank you. Let's get something in the books, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. Come with questions because I'm not planning. Bye.